Well, hello. Welcome back to the Builder Dad Shop. I'm Builder Dad Dan, and this is my shop. Now, today I'd like to talk to you about how I use Excel with my business to formulate cost, track inventory, different things. In today's video, I'm going to talk about tracking inventory. Tracking inventory is, to me, the starting point for how do I start developing costs. Later, we're going to look at shipping, we're going to look at other things, and we're going to start pulling all this together and build a spreadsheet that will actually build the cost of an item for us. And it'll become a repeatable process. So with a little amount of tweaking, you can actually take that spreadsheet and apply it to many different types of furniture or 3D printed items. So sit back, relax, and watch me go into a deep detail. So it's a long video, but it's a deep detail of actually how do I use Excel, how do I build the spreadsheet, and then walk through each item of it to come up with what I'm going to use. Enjoy. All right, so now let's start looking at this inventory spreadsheet. I've already got Excel opened up, and the way I like to look at inventory is I've got two things that I want to track. One is the raw materials, and the second one are the finished good products. So we're going to start this off, and quickly and easily what I'm going to do is go down here, and where I've got sheet 2, I'm just going to double click this and highlight over that and say, okay, I'm going to change this over, and I'm going to call this raw materials. Now, when I think about raw materials, I think of a few categories and things that I want to track. First is the type of item. So let's start off some column headers up top here. So we're going to do item type. How about a description for that item? Maybe if I spell it correctly, that would help. Then let's think about quantity. The unit of measure. How about cost per item? So what does each item cost us when we purchase it? The value of the inventory. So how much money do we have on hand with that inventory? Then what about the reorder quantity? So how many units do I have to purchase in order to reorder this? Let's think about a box for a second. If I'm buying a box, I can't just buy one box. I have to buy 25 boxes. So you can't look at a reorder cost as just a single unit. So then let's move on. And how about the delivery fee? So if I'm buying something from somebody else, it's going to cost me money to get that delivered. Okay. And then what about the total reorder cost? So the cost, the total of that reorder. And how about this? A column for cost to charge. So now when I look at building a cost for a spreadsheet for the items itself, how much did each piece of this inventory go into? So if I have to put it into a box, how much am I going to charge for that box? Because clearly if I charge just what I was charged per box, I've missed out. Maybe I've paid some taxes on it. Maybe I've paid other transportation fees, other things that I want to make sure get captured in that total cost. All right. And then how about we've got all this information. What about supplier? So who did I buy this from? The supplier SKU. So the SKU to order it in. What if I have multiple places I want to store my inventory? So why don't we give this an inventory location? How about the last time this column was updated? Give it some kind of date. And then why don't we put a field here to capture any notes we might have? So now we've got some column headers here. Now the fun part about this is we've got some headers for columns, but it kind of just looks like things. So when I build my spreadsheets, and let's be truth with this, I build a lot of spreadsheets. I like to highlight my columns up top, and I like to give my headers a little bit of color so I know it's a header. So I'm going to go up here and I use that fill color to give it a blue color. and then I turn the text itself white and I bold it. Now, I do that so I can see these things and I can read them really easily and know that, hey, that's my headers. Now, another thing I'll do is if I've got a long spreadsheet, I'll actually lock in the top row of the view, and I'll do that in a second. But first, I've got the headers here. I've got the reasons what I'm going to track. Now, how about we go in here and we wrap the text, and let's make this look pretty. So we've got some longer columns here. Okay, this is looking okay. The description is going to definitely be longer than that. So let's spread this out a little bit. And now my columns look decent, but let's format this to look better. So I'm going to go ahead and center them. I'm going to center them both ways. So I'm going to center them right to left. I'm going to center them up and down. And now I've got some pretty good looking columns to start with. So now, why don't we do this? Why don't we create a few rows? So I'm going to come up here, select those, and I'm going to go up to the cell formatting here, select all borders. Now I've got a pretty good looking spreadsheet to start with. So let's give it a whirl and see if we can try some stuff. So let's start with maybe filament. So I 3D print. So why don't I track some filament here? All right, so I've got filament, and how about I go with Prusament? So on my other screen, so I run in a 2-monitor setup. On my other monitor, I've got Prusa's website up, and I'm looking at their website, and I'm gonna let's look at jet black. So let's look at jet black here. Okay, it's a 1 kilogram roll. And so now I've got this here. It's expanded past this quantity field. So if I come back up here, you see when this goes like this with the arrows on both sides, I can actually now double click and I can widen that back out. So now this equals my description. So I'm kind of formatting the spreadsheet as I go. All right, so my unit of measure for this is each. And let's just say I have 2 of these units on hand, okay? The cost per unit, so Prusa charges $29.99 for this, okay? I'm gonna expand this column up here real quick, just so it looks a little cleaner. There we go. So now if I do some quick math on this, I can say equals, and I can say quantity times cost per unit, or cost per item, equals inventory value. So $59.98 is what my inventory on hand is. Now, if you want to have some fun with Prusa, you can figure out the best way to reorder. And so I did some math, and I figured out that I get a pretty good break on shipping if I order 9 units. So I'm going to say 9 units. The delivery fee on that, while it's a larger number because it's the total of all that weight, I worked out the math to say it's 5.29 per unit. Okay. And then the reorder cost then becomes, again, equals the reorder quantity times the reorder price. Now, one thing we can do here real quick, because I didn't do it there, or actually we'll do it in a second. We'll format these fields in a second here, because then we'll copy some stuff down. But now I've got to this point here where I'm saying cost to charge. So why don't we take this and say, okay, well, I've got this total cost here, right? I've got the reorder quantity there. So how much should I charge for this? So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to say this is this cost per item plus this delivery fee per unit. So now I'm at a total of $35.28 per unit to charge. Okay. So if I was using a full roll of filament for a project, I would charge for that filament $35.28, and that recoups all of the costs that are associated for me. Now we could add another column to this to say miscellaneous costs. So handling costs, anything beyond shipping that you might encounter. We could do that. We could bulk that into the delivery fee per unit. So say you were paying taxes on it, we could calculate that up as well. But right now we're going to leave this as is. And then I'm going to call this supplier is Prusa Research. Okay. And then their SKU for this, do they have a SKU for this? That's actually a good question. Let me go over here and click for a second. See if I can find their SKU number to put it in. The one thing and the reason why I like keeping track of SKUs is that when I get down to looking at when I get down and I start looking at boxes as an example, I can easily go and copy that box number in and search it up and find it again. It doesn't matter so much when it comes into something like this where the description is basically the item. So you could just leave this blank if you wanted to, because that's what I'm going to end up doing. Now, where am I going to locate this? Well, this inventory is going to be in my office. And it's going to go on a shelf. So office filament shelf. Okay. And then last updated equals today's date. And today's date is 11/20. What is today's date? 11/23. Oh, it's Thanksgiving. 11/23. Oops. Actually, let's do that. And then we're going to go do some quick little formatting here. So we've got it up here where it says custom. I'm going to go click on that, go to formatting. And I'm actually going to give it the short format so I can see the full date. Normally, I like to do this month with a different little format where it says the date, the month, and then the year. And then it gives the 3 letters for that. But to keep it simple, we'll go ahead and do it this way. All right. So this is a really quick example to track raw material inventory. We're going to give it another example here real quick. Packaging. Okay. Whoops. If only I could spell. No, I wasn't an English major. I actually was an accounting major. So my experience is not well with spelling. Good with spelling. Nor English. Primary language. Don't use it well. All right. 24. Let's do a 24 by 12 by 4. 4-inch box. Okay. So we're going to do 24 inches long. And we could actually put this all in here. So we could say this is a 24 inches long box by 12 inches wide box by 4 inches high. So long, so length, width, height. All right. Let's say we've got, I don't know, let's say we've got 24 units of this. Again, this is an each. And the cost of this, we picked this up from Uline. And so we're going to say 0.5 is the cost per item. And so again, we can now copy this down. We can go ahead and copy these calculations. Oops. Copy these calculations down. And there we go. We've got some information. Now, one thing I didn't do that I should have done is I didn't format these as dollar values. So let's go ahead and do this really quick here. Let's go ahead and let's format this really fast. And we're going to do some quick copying of some values. So I'm going to go ahead and click the number format right there. Come back over here. I'm going to number format this as well. Now, one thing that I really like to do is when I'm calculating costs, I like to put input fields as one color, and I like to put calculated cost as another. And so I'm actually going to come up here and inventory value. Let's go ahead and change this color and let's give it some meaning. So let's say this gold color right here. We'll do a lighter gold. Lighter gold means it's been a calculated value. Okay, and so we can put a key somewhere if we wanted to, but for right now, let's just do this so that way we've got some understanding of our spreadsheet. So we've got calculated field here. Delivery fee per unit is not. Reorder cost is, and cost of charge is calculated. Okay, so these two are both calculated. So there we go. Now we've got some calculated information here. Okay. Now this is all manual, right? So everything we're doing right here is a manual operation, but it kind of sets you up for success. So it's not an application, you know, it's not something that's built and it's got multiple screens and things like that. Like you could do that in Access, you could do that in other applications. This is just a simple, how do I track my inventory? And it's very manual, but it's a way to keep yourself organized. Okay. So we've got this, we've got those fields down there. Let's go ahead and format the rest of these really quick here. So let's give this the number format. Let's go ahead down here, give this the number format as well. All right. And so now we've got this here. Okay, so our reorder quantity with Uline is 25. Our cost for delivery, when I calculated it all out, for this one right here, it was 92 cents a unit. Okay, and there we go. Cost to charge 142. Supplier Uline. SKU for this, S. What is the SKU for this? 2412 4. 2412 4 Uline. 2412 4 Uline. Why don't I have this? You'd think I'd have this whole example totally prepped. I did not. That is my mistake. Let me go here to Uline and find a box of that exact size. So I can do this. I wrote down the SKU number. I did not write down, or I wrote down the price per unit, but I did not write down the SKU number. That is my mistake. So I'm gonna go find that real quick. And this way I've got a repeatable process. And I can always quickly go reference this, and as costs change, I can update my spreadsheet. So the next time I go reorder, things might change a little bit, and I might have to adjust my spreadsheets. So this at a 200 weight was 150 cents per item. What was I doing? That's wrong. This says a 24 by 12 by 4 at 200 pounds is 192 a unit. Whoops. But cool, look how that recalculated. There's my inventory value. There's my cost to charge per unit. So let's fix that real quick. Our reorder is 25. The SKU for this is S13324. And we're going to locate this. How about we say we locate this in the garage? So we're going to locate this inventory in the garage. And you know what? While we're at this real quick, let me show you an example real fast of how I do this. So I'm going to go ahead and just add this to my cart. I'm going to view my cart. And if I go to the checkout option, I can say deliver to my house. And here we go. So let's see. How about I spin this really quick over here? All right. So if we look at this really quick right here, this is what I've got here. It's a 1-day charge on UPS. So it's $25.50 to ship this, 25 units. That's going to leave out of the Allentown warehouse. And so all I have to do this math is if I pull up my calculator, I bring my calculator onto this screen, I can sit there and say, okay, well, I've got $25.50, right? So you take the number of the cost of the shipping and you divide that by the number of units. So it's going to cost me $1.02 per unit. Okay. So I'll pull this back over here and go ahead and I'm going to update this to 102. Okay. And there we go. Why does that not look right? If the inventory value is this, then the reorder cost is this. Should be G3, right? G3. Oh, I did the math wrong there. Reorder cost, no. Should be equal to this. Okay, I did the math wrong. Let's go back there for a second. This is the fun part about all this. You look at these things and you're like, hey, that didn't work out right. So if you go ahead and you look at this, you can say, all right, my cost is, it's this cost per item plus this cost per unit. Put a parentheses around this. Yeah, accept the correction. Oh, darn it. Did that wrong. I should have said no, accept the correction. We'll go ahead and put parentheses around this. Now the reason I'm doing this is because I want that total cost right there. So it's going to be 29.99 plus 529. So that's my per unit cost, right? And I'm going to times that per unit cost times my reorder quantity, which is going to be G2. There we go. Now that's my cost of reorder. Now if I do this and copy that down, copy that the whole way down this whole thing. Now all of a sudden this makes way more sense. 73.50. So why don't I go back over here real quick and double check that. So we're going to just do a double check on that to make sure. I've got 48 plus 25.50, 73.50. There we go. Math checks out. We're good. So one thing you should do is whenever you're doing work in a program, always verify yourself and verify that what you did is right. Okay. Now, if you notice, I pulled that down and it copied the date down, but it copied it as the true value. So I'm just going to copy and paste that. So if you notice, one thing is I kind of fly through these things a little bit, and it's because I'm doing this all day long, is building spreadsheets and things like that. But if you don't see me on screen right clicking and saying copy, you know, going down to the copy and then the paste and all that, I'm actually using the hotkeys. Hotkeys for this are Control C is a copy, Control V is a paste, Control X is a cut. So a lot of times you'll see me Control C and then you'll see me Control V. So there we go. So here's my two examples now. I've got inventory and I've got some stuff to track. So this is my raw material inventory, and now I can see it and look at it. All right, now say I wanted to add a new row to this. Say I'm running out and I'm starting to track a bunch of inventory and I wanted to add some new stuff to this. I can just right click and hit insert, and it keeps my formatting, okay? So the one thing that you'll notice is that I could keep adding more and more rows to this, okay? The one thing you'll see is the calculations don't flow. So always leave yourself one extra row or insert between two rows. That way you contain that, you can continue the formatting. And then I just paste that all back in. And now that math, I've got it to continue on with. So there's my simple example of a raw material inventory spreadsheet. Hopefully this helps you with tracking your inventory for raw materials. Let's see. How about we do the same thing really fast, and we're going to create one new spreadsheet or one more tab, and we're going to do it for products real fast. So we're going to go down here to new sheet, hit plus, double click that again, and now we're going to call this products. Okay. Now we're going to give ourselves some titles. So what did we do before? We typed out the titles, we did some formatting, and we went for a ride. So I'm going to sit there and say, well, it's going to be item type because I like that column. SKU, so this is my own internal information. And then the description. And then the quantity I have on hand. The unit of measure again. The cost per item. Again, spelling. Inventory value. Oops, cap locks. I coughed and my cap locks came on. And then notes. All right, now, one thing we can do is if we want to be cheaters about this, we can go back over to the raw material one, come up here, select one of these headers, and if you click the format, it'll copy that format. Now, if I go back here to product, I can go ahead and paste that in. Now, if I select all here, I can double click and it will recondense this. Now, I don't like how that did that. So if I grab just one column, I'm gonna let that span out. Now, if I double click, it'll make it look a little bit better. We're gonna play with this in a minute and expand that. But let's talk about this and let's make some fictional products. So in this case here, let's make an inventory of 3D print, a SKU of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's give it something better than this. Let's do 3D 1, 2, 3. Okay. Description is test. Test. What are we building? Test square gauge. Okay. Okay. Ooh, gosh, that spelling is getting me. I start typing, and that's what happens. Let's say we've got a quantity of 4 of these on hand. Unit of measures each. Cost per item. So if we calculate it out and we said to 3D print this item, it costs $15.99. Here we go. We can also, you know what, let's give ourselves another column here, and let's do inventory location. Okay. And let's do inventory location. Let's say we locate this in a shelving unit in the corner of our shop. So corner shop shelf. Corner shop, we'll call it rack, shelf. It's the top shelf, and there's 3 shelves there, so we'll call it shelf 1. Okay. Now we've got a location for it, so we know where it's at. Inventory value. This is going to become a calculated field, so we're going to color code that. And this is going to be as simple as quantity times cost. And there you go. Now let's do a little bit of number formatting. And let's go ahead and give ourselves 20 or 19, 20 rows of this. So let's go ahead and apply all borders. So now we've got a good looking spreadsheet here. Now the one thing we want to do is let's expand this out just a little bit to get the headers to look better. Now remember, you can just click this right here and double click, or you can go each column by itself. So say we did a new item, and so this is going to be wood furniture. Okay. I've now done that. I can actually just click right here and it will expand out that column. So you don't have to select everything. You can select just one thing. And let's call this end table small missionary. Oh, we're going to test my spelling. And actually, that's going to be the description. So let's move that to the description. And then let's call this WF0031. I don't know why, but I'm making that number up. So now we've got some more stuff we want to format. So this is a great example of select all. Double click to format. And there you go. We've got 1 unit of this on hand. We're going to give this an each. We're going to say its cost per item costs us $150 to make it. So our inventory value, going to copy that down here. And there we go. And we're going to locate this. So this is going to be, let's say, north corner of our shop. North shop corner. and we just have it loosely there in a box. Okay, then we could leave ourselves a note. This item is in a box with SKU labeled. Okay. And there you go. Now let's just format this. Actually, let's format this whole column set here as dollars. Let's go ahead and copy this. So Control C, remember, and then Control V, and done. Now we've got ourselves a very simple and functional product inventory. We've got ourselves a very simple and functional raw material inventory. And this is a good way to start building your kind of picture of what is your inventory on hand. What does that inventory cost you? Because this will aid you when you start looking at what's the next step of this. Well, the next step of this is starting to estimate out things. So building a spreadsheet that's going to start doing cost estimations on a 3D print or on a woodworking project or a CNC. And so we'll do those in a later video, but right now this is a simple example. Now I'm pretty sure I could do this pretty easily in any other spreadsheeting program. For me, I use Excel. I'm a Windows person. I've been operating on Windows for, gosh, longer than my career. But for 19 years, I've been writing software and I've been writing spreadsheets that use this kind of information. So this is kind of standard formatting stuff that I do all the time, all day long. It's kind of the way my brain works. But I hope you like it. I hope this helps you out. And what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to save this and I'm going to put this somewhere so that if you want to pick this up as a starting block, you don't have to go through all these columns and do it yourself. But you can if you want, because you can add some more stuff to this. So example of this, remember how we came up with this cost here for reorder cost? Well, maybe we want to sit there and we're going to add another column to this and taxes paid. Okay. And so let's say we know that we're going to buy this and it's going to come to us from somewhere that charges us, maybe, do you want to say taxes, maybe fees, like extra fees? Maybe we should just call it extra fees. Let's just call this extra fees. Okay, so there's the delivery fee, the shipping fee, but then there's extra things. Maybe it's an import customs fee. Maybe it's a tax fee or something. But we can easily come into this and say, okay, let's add 1.2 per. This one's 0. Okay, so now we've got some numbers here, right? So there's our extra fee. So this one doesn't charge anything. This one charges, we get an extra 1.2 on this one. Okay. So these are we're just throwing out an example here. So now we could come in here and we could say, okay, well, we've got all of this stuff. Now it's as easy as coming into this formula bar and saying, okay, well, I want to add this new column to it. I can just go ahead and hit plus, type in I and 2, and there's my I2 column right there. Hit enter. Now that's taken into account now. So for every one of these, I get an extra cost there. Okay, now it's a matter of just copying this and selecting down. Now, one thing you can do in Excel, we'll give you a little cheat here. You can shift, control, down, and it will take you through all of the already filled in columns. It won't take you to the bottom. If you held that down again and hit down again, it would take you to the bottom of the sheet. But we only want to populate values in columns that are already populated. So now if I Control V, that entire thing is updated. And now this one doesn't have to modify because it's already taking into account the reorder cost versus the number of units per. And that's as simple as it gets. All right. Well, I will find a place to put this spreadsheet for you. So hopefully it will help you out. And it's as simple as giving it a name, saving it, and going from there. All right. Well, thank you for watching that tutorial. I hope you enjoyed the look at how my brain works, how I manage using color to kind of organize my columns, And yeah. So till next time, stay safe, have fun, and keep woodworking.